Hello, and welcome to the Shakedown, where we discuss the criminal justice system from the inside out. The goal of this podcast is to explain how the criminal justice system works, from policing to courts to prison to parole, and how they affect all of us. The hosts of the Shakedown draw from personal experience and share their stories. Our hosts include Malone, who spent 30 years in Texas prisons and is now a published comic book artist. Dave has been in and out of prisons for most of his life and is a proud dad. Both have traveled the country speaking about their experience with Texas prisons. My name is Ryan, aka Rainforest, and I spent 6 years in Texas prisons, during which time I studied sociology, criminology, and writing. I now live up in Colorado, where I help with local projects to help those struggling in the community. And now, here's our show. Start off, Heather, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a bit about what you do in your podcast?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Heather. I am the host of Hot Mess Espresso. It is a mental health podcast. We started off, me and my multiple just sides to myself. I say we, it's just me. Started off educating on borderline personality disorder and just kind of trying to humanize it and educate people on what it is not, stuff like that. And it's just kind of turned into more of a mental health all around. We've had quite a few different people on talking about different topics with mental health that should be talked about more. We've had people talking about postpartum anxiety, just their own mental health journeys and stuff like that. And it's been pretty incredible.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's something that's definitely lacking in Texas prison system.
Yeah. It's lacking everywhere, but I feel like that would be one of the bigger places it's lacking.
It's lacking in Texas in general.
Yes, absolutely it is.
That's why whenever you said Huntsville, we all thought you were going to a prison. I mean, Huntsville is like
no.
Huntsville is associated with prisons in general.
Yeah, I think yeah, for sure. That and the college. That's about it.
That and the college. The college is associated with mental illness too.
No, just the town.
Not. Just
probably. I mean, I literally, some of the worst years of my life was in college, so probably.
Well, I was gonna say, around the country, like the biggest place where people with mental illness go tends to be jails and prisons in general, which is really sad that it ends up being they don't really deal with the issue. They just house them and that's it.
Well, that's just the system in general, from what I understand of it. They just, you're there and then you're out, and there's no any kind of anything.
No aftercare.
Exactly. That's the word. I was like, I don't want to say like rehabilitation, but I was like, I don't know the word.
So it's a prime example of that was there was a guy where Ryan and I were on a trustee camp, and there was a guy that I worked with in the kitchen who we called him Lightbulb, for lack of better words. And me and this guy worked side by side for, 6 months or so. And so I get out and I'm working the door, working security for a bar. And this guy's homeless walking down the street, and I see him, and I'm looking at him, and he's walking up, and and he gets up close to me. And I was like, damn, that's Lightbulb. And I was like, look out, Lightbulb. And he had no recollection of who I was. And he was completely out of it. And, as it turns out, talking to him later again is, he wasn't on any kind of medication because they didn't provide him with anything except what he left the prison with, which was whatever he had left,
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he was completely lucid, normal, or appeared normal anyways, I should say. However, but no, he wasn't. And, again, it's no aftercare.
Yeah, it's not like they set them up with psychology or psychiatry after, or make sure that they stay up on their meds or any kind of treatment after the fact, for sure. And that's a huge problem.
You know,
But
for a second, I thought this was going to
probably
be an
I
intervention
feel
when I saw you. I thought, wait a second. Thought they brought you on to try to convince me I needed help. Turn myself in.
oh my god. No. I don't really do that convincing.
That's going to be
We know
another
you need
episode,
help.
Malone.
Yeah, no problem. We got you.
But no,
Next
I feel
week.
like a lack of mental health aftercare contributes to the recidivism rate as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's a lot of things we assume that when something, someone either breaks law or does something that is considered a crime, and then we just put them away for a while, and then they get back out on the street, that it's going to
Yeah.
magically prevent the thing from happening again. And we're not
Yeah.
going to give them. It's not like we give them a whole lot of tools either when they're locked up to do
No.
something different or learn or figure out a new path, because it's hard. It's hard to learn a new way to deal with like do you talk about like coping skills and mental health strategies on your show or things
We
like that?
do.
Or yeah.
We do. I actually, in a few future episodes, we're going to be talking with a couple of people that work on like somatic healing, energy healing, but also how to manage stress in the workplace and coping strategies with that, and stuff like that. We're still expanding with the podcast, but that was a huge thing that while I'm not a therapist and I'm not a substitute for mental health treatment, I'd like to be a gateway to helping people kind of figure out ways to cope with things, because mental health in general is not very accessible right now to anybody. It is absolutely a privilege, and it shouldn't be that way.
That's true. I agree with you, but do you think some people are afraid to ask for the help as well?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very, very open about my mental health journey and my struggles. And even then, I still get people that are like, okay, you've talked about this enough. Like, shut the hell up. And it's just, people don't want to necessarily hear it. They want to hear, oh, I'm doing okay. I'm all right. They want to hear vague. They want to hear this, they hear that. But then there's certain jobs where if you get mental health help, it's kind of like a black mark or like a blacklist on your jacket or something. Like, case in point, I know that it's really difficult for people in the military to access mental health help, which they all should be. But
Right.
because, the shit that they see, like, somebody's got to be looking at that. So they really can't access the help because they may not be able to get deployed, they may not be able to do this, that, or the third. And it, because they're all, oh, get help, get help, get help, but also don't get help. And that's kind of how it is overall. Like, if you actually get help for what you're dealing with, what you're seeing, whether it's first responders, people that have gone through a ton of trauma, it's also at the same time, well, don't do that, because we just want to kind of put it under the rug. And I have a huge problem with that, obviously.
Oh yeah, I do too. But but that seems to be the norm,
Mm-hmm.
and then people also want to put their own mental health issues, sweep them under the rug as well because they don't want anybody to think they're different. And I never thought about that, like you said, in the workplace to where it could impede, like, career advancement or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I mean, any kind of high stress job or environment, you should be talking to a therapist. And not only is it kind of unofficially frowned upon, it's hard to access because it's expensive, and the cost of being alive these days is astronomical. So, it's either pay my rent or go to therapy. And, insurances are a whole other, if you have insurance, it's a whole other, trying to find a therapist that works with your insurance. And, if you're going through the state for mental health help, there's only a certain amount of time that you can be accessing therapy before they kick you out, because a lot of states are just like, okay, well, after 2 years, like, you should be good to go. And it's like, no, if you're dealing with a lot of complex trauma and a lot of things that kind of keep happening, it's going to take more than 2 years to unpack that shit.
A lot of in prison, a lot of guys I know too, it's like it becomes a pride issue too. Like it's a huge, like, if like whatever they say, it has to be right. They're right. They know what they're talking about. And even the idea that they're talking, like, like, if you're questioning their, like, what they would consider their sanity, or how much they know, like,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a huge deal. And even the few programs that exist in prisons, they honestly, a lot of times they'll reaffirm that. They'll double down in, like, there's authentic manhood classes, which are meant to be like, you're supposed to be the man, and you're supposed to be the person who, like, runs the household and takes care of this and takes care of that. So, like, then it becomes like, you need to have an iron fist and you need to know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to all these things. And that makes a bad problem far worse if there's any sort of mental health problem, which they clearly are going to be coming right out fresh out of prison.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're coming out of a literal institution into the free world where things are not as regimented. You have more free will, XYZ. I feel like that would kind of screw with you a little bit. But to add to what you were saying, I'm not a guy, so I don't understand men's mental health fully, but I do have a lot of I guess colleagues that are in that their podcasts are about men's mental health and stuff, and you hear that a lot, that men are supposed to be tough, men aren't supposed to show emotion, men aren't supposed to this, men aren't supposed to that, and that compounds on the whole don't ask for help because you got this, you have to handle this. And I think that also that kind of twisted, I guess, toxic mentality also contributes to the mental health issue and why they're not asking for help and why they're not, because then they're seen as weak, or they're seen as, the opposite of what asking for help is, which is you're actually being really brave for saying, I can't handle this right now. I need to figure out a way to handle this so I can be a better person, so I can be a better father, husband, son, uncle, whatever. And I don't understand why we haven't, like, come to that conclusion yet.
I don't quite understand that either. Why that was one of the first things. Like, I was fortunate enough to actually go to addiction treatment. And that was one of the
Mm-hmm.
first things I had to break down, was because everyone, as soon as they come in, they're like, no, I need to talk to my family. No, I need to reach out to this. No, I'm taking care of this person. Like, no, you're in treatment. You're in the
You need to take
emergency
care of
room.
you.
Right. Yeah. This is your time right now. Work on that. Then you can worry about other people way down the line.
I mean, because
That,
bottom line, if you can't fix yourself, how are you going to fix it, or help anybody else?
Right.
exactly. No, the thing with addiction is, I know, like, I'm sure it's a little different now because I haven't done my research on it lately. But I know that, like, the big thing was when they started coming out with dual diagnosis treatment centers and stuff like that, where they were actually finally treating the underlying trauma that usually comes with addiction, instead of just trying to get somebody clean and send them out the door. They actually started working on the mental health and the trauma and, all the reasons why somebody becomes addicted to something, because nobody wakes up and goes, I'm going to be addicted to XYZ. There's usually a reason. So the fact that you were lucky enough to go to, so were you a was it, I can't talk today, was it more of a dual diagnosis where they were working on your mental health, or was it just working on the addiction?
Well, the treatment center I went to, which I highly recommend, it's Cedar. It's the Colorado Dependent and Addiction Recovery. I believe that's the acronym, but Cedar in Colorado. They're great. They
Mm-hmm.
basically, so to get me in there, so I had just I just killed someone in a drunk driving accident, and I basically, my lawyer and my parents were like, you need to go to this place. And
Mhm.
I'm talking to them on the phone. And I'm like, I am not an alcoholic. And they're like, that's all right. You may not be an alcoholic. That's fine. You might not be, but you probably have abused substances. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Like I can accept
Right.
that. And then the way they broke it down was then once you're in there, then it's from every angle. They're trying to they do it is focused on addiction as like kind of like the backbone of everything,
Mhm.
but they are working on mental health and general coping skills and everything. And like once I was kind of like, okay, I need to be here. This is something I want to learn everything I can from this place.
Mhm.
It was skills. These are overall skills you could learn, you could apply for whatever you're dealing with. They were things you could apply for your day-to-day life regardless. And then they did have people who could diagnose other, like they had trauma counselors, they had
Okay.
people who specialized in different sorts of disorders and compulsions and things like that.
Mhm.
So if you did have like different issues that were coinciding or like coinciding with the addiction, they would have people there for you so you could start working on that and then move if like once you were done, because generally it was a 30 to 90 day program. You
Mhm.
would graduate and then you could go out and have a counselor and everything outside of there.
But that's how it definitely should be. I mean, you have to work on the underlying and the coping and stuff like that because it's so easy to be strong in a facility where you don't have the outside influences. But once you're out there, the possibilities are endless, kind of thing.
You're safe when you're in treatment,
Exactly.
because you're around other people that are at least making the effort to try and get better or putting on a show, but they're at least, they look like they're trying to get better.
Right.
And we'll say they're all trying to better themselves. But then when you
Mhm.
get out, like, I mean, I've run into people like I used to know, and and they're all still. Some of them are still doing the same things they were, but it's like
Mhm.
people are gonna just they don't care really. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't about your mental well-being, because if you're not,
No.
like my old friends are like, I'm not Mr. Party Fun Guy, so they don't want to hang around.
Yeah. God forbid you become you can still party and be like a good human being. The partying
True.
just looks a little different.
You're talking about you get out and it's just like, you go from being incarcerated to being
Mhm.
free. And there's no transition, there's no going
Yeah.
to, wherever, you just get out. And I got out and a friend picked me up and we went to a Bucky's. I don't know if you went to a Bucky's while you're here in Texas,
I did
but
not. No.
oh, you missed
That is
out.
for the next trip. That is on the list for the next trip.
Make it a pilgrimage. It's worth it. No, I don't know if it's worth
Pilgrimage,
it,
got
but
it.
they're huge. So I went to Bucky's and I'm like, I walk in, it's like, I don't know, about 10 in the morning, and it's just people everywhere. And I'm like, just tripping. I just stopped. And my friend Juan was like, what? And I was like, there's just so many people. And it was just,
Mhm.
I'd been gone for about 4.5 years. And it was just so strange to be around all those people just doing what they normally do.
Yeah, I'm sure you're in a bubble, a very
Yeah.
regimented bubble. And
Oh, without a
then it's
doubt.
like, here's the free world. Have fun. And you're
Yeah.
just
Do
like,
it.
I don't what?
Do your thing now.
Yeah. Like you've done your time, you've served your sentence, mazel.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 years in prison, and then the day I got out was in the middle of a pandemic. I
Oh
caught a
God.
plane to Colorado.
Oh,
Like
yeah. I talked to
so,
you
yeah,
then.
yeah.
You ate salmon at the airport.
Right, exactly. It was crazy. That day was the craziest day. I had a full on prison beard, and then going through the airport with a mask on, and then flying out to Colorado. All like that was the most sensory overload I've ever had in
I can
24
imagine.
hours. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
it's crazy. It's a trip.
yeah, I'm
And,
sure.
and even talk about mental health too. It's like, so I've been dealing with just a lot of like stress lately, just
Mhm.
with life being life, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and I can really empathize with people who, I get why some people are just like, the heck with it, the hell with it. I'm just going to go back to doing what I'm doing because I can't make it, this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the stressors. It's like, you know, just life being life. It's like paying bills and just taking care of everything and trying to, manage your time so I could spend time with everybody that I want to spend time with and still get everything done that I need to get done. And I
Mm-hmm.
always feel like I'm behind. And I can, and it stresses me out. And I can see how some people just, there's like the heck with it. I don't care anymore. I'm just going back to prison. Well, not literally saying that to themselves, but like I'm going to go back to
They
doing
don't
what I'm
care if they
doing.
go or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, with proper mental health, it could give them the tools to actually, know how to deal with those thoughts as they come.
Exactly. And I think, and again, I'm just kind of, these are just my opinions. But yeah, like you were saying, it's familiar. They know what to do, what to think there versus out here. There's there's a ton going on.
Oh yeah.
And even if you're, whether you've been incarcerated or not, it's incredibly stressful. So I cannot imagine what it's like to go from that bubble to back out here. And it's like, shit, I have bills. Like, what?
Yeah.
Or,
What do I do with
just
this?
like, yeah, exactly. Like you just go from being very it's almost, I don't know what the term is, but I can imagine going from super regimented to not. You want to go back to the super regimented because it's comfortable. It's safe. Like you know what to do there.
So much of your thinking is done for you there. You don't have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And all, there they don't have any. They have no responsibilities other than going to commissary.
Hmm.
You know.
very few responsibilities.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I didn't have any. I didn't have a job.
The person that I think of a lot, like we've talked. Ben David's been on the show, and he's a great example
Oh my god.
of like the someone who could definitely benefit from mental health services inside of prisons, because what happens is he has like he has seeking behaviors and
Hmm.
does not like he knows exactly what to do inside prison, and then knows exactly what, and then gets out and then still continues it, and there's nothing for him. There's no benefit inside or out. Like there's nothing that's to for him to like change that behavior or reason to change it or
Hmm.
anything. Like there's people like Malone and I, and even Dave, I think at certain points I've been like, try to help him, and he is like he's he's got a heart of gold. He's the most likable person in the world, and but he like there's a part of him that is like he cannot stop using,
Well,
and there's
that's the idea of addiction. The whole powerlessness against it is I mean, from what I understand about it, I mean, there's literally a chemical situation going on inside of their heads that
Hmm.
is telling them that, I mean, giving them this overwhelming urge to have this substance over and over, all day long. They don't have if they're not on it, well, then all they can think about is getting it.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's too powerful for an individual to overcome. I mean, you gotta think about it from their terms.
Well, and coming from personal experience, even if even if you try to get off of it, sometimes those withdrawals are so bad that you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay on this shit because I had it was a prescribed oxy that turned into an addiction because I was on it for so long. And getting off of that, I remember looking at my mom and going, I can understand why people stay on this now because honestly, I don't think I want to get off this anymore because it was horrible. Those withdrawals were awful.
Oh
So
yeah.
and I mean even to this day I've been off of them for, got off them when I was 20, so 12 years.
Good for
And
you.
I was just determined. I had seen my godfather pass away from a pill addiction from 3 spinal surgeries, same as me. So when I hit that third one, I was like, nope, nope, because I saw it. I was like, I can't. But I also, my mentality was different, I guess. And so like I can sympathize with people that are stuck in active addiction because I know how freaking tough it is to get off of that stuff. But then, even 12 years later, I was in the hospital for a few days for a double kidney infection, and they gave me oxy, and I was only on it for 3 days, and I was like, 3 days, I should be good, I should be fine, it should. Nope. Woke up sweating, shaking, migraine. I was like, son of a bitch. And it's just like that. So I know how, like, just addicted your body. It's not even your mind, it's your body. Your body's like, ooh, we remember this stuff, we like this stuff, and your head's just like, no we don't, no we don't. And it's hard.
Yeah, that stuff starts talking to you. It gets in your head, and next thing you know,
Mm-hmm.
all is, it's communicating to you, telling you all it's telling you is how you can get more.
Yeah. And like I had a surgery, and they gave me oxy, and I was just like, I'll just take one, and I took the one, and my, you get that little hit of serotonin, and you're like, shit. I was like, I literally, my sister took the rest of them out of the house. I was like, I don't want to know where they are. I don't want to see them. Like, we're not going down this road again. Like, I can't do it because it's just like that. So I can completely understand. But I actually have a question for you guys, just because we are talking mental health. What was the access to it? It, like, depending on what, obviously I don't know how, like, in depth you guys go just yet on, like, your stories, but um what was the access to mental health there? Was it just seeing, like, a counselor and getting on meds if you needed it, or?
You can find Shakedown merch, graphic novels, and other projects at waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com. If you would like to support The Shakedown, get exclusive content, and watch episodes live, you can support us at patreon.com/The Shakedown. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment to give Malone that inner peace he so richly deserves.